I didn't take that down. That's my bad. Sorry, everybody. Oh my gosh, if you could see us, it would help. There we are. Hey, Kevin, how you doing?
Hey, Christy, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am doing great. I had a full day of teaching students and a staff meeting, and then I ran home, and here I am, ready
And
to
here we
go.
are.
Yeah, here we
Awesome.
are. That's right.
Well, I
So,
know we've been trying to get together for about a month now and do this live stream. So, Christy, thank you for being so patient and working with me on the scheduling.
oh, I appreciate you and fitting in time for this interview. I got to know who you were from Carrie at Homestead House
Yep.
channel. I saw you interview there, and I was like, oh, I got to talk to this guy.
Awesome. Awesome.
So yeah, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and your health journey up to this point. I know your body recomposition is amazing, so I'd like to hear
Yeah.
about that and how you got from there to here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for me, it has been the carnivore and meat, fat, and protein, and eliminating carbs and sugar has been literally a saver for me. So, I used to do a fair amount of weightlifting and I would do some powerlifting. I would compete in bench press competitions and squat competitions when I was junior, senior in high school, and right out of high school, and right before Deborah and I got married. Um, so I haven't lifted weights seriously though since 1990, 1991. And,
Okay.
we got married and I started working and started pursuing my career. And one thing led to another and got real busy and began to neglect myself. And growing up, Christy, I had a pretty big history of eating a lot of sugar. And it's kind of crazy because even during my weightlifting years, I did not truly understand nutrition. I did not
Mm.
understand what I was doing with my body. And I would load up on carbs so heavy, even in those younger years of lifting weights. I was that guy walking around the gym, drinking his energy drink and trying to get all the sugar and glucose into me, especially when I was competing. You would really do a lot of stuff like 30 minutes, 45 minutes before competition to try to get all this energy in you. Well, long story short, over the years, I just continued to go down a very bad road of nutrition. And I just kept getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And in 2019, I had to have my right hip replaced. And
Mm.
I had been struggling all the way up to that time due to a hip injury. And I'd hobbled around for about 7 years with a very bad hip injury. And from squatting, from trying to do some squats back in 2012. I remember 2012, I was in the gym and I figured I'm just gonna put some weights on and do some squatting. Well, stupid me, I didn't do things right and I got hurt. So in 2019, I finally went and seen an orthopedic surgeon, and he told me, he's like, Kevin, there's nothing we can do with your hip. It's completely gone. We're gonna have to do a full hip replacement. And Christy, after that event, and even then, they were on me a little bit about my weight. So I'm
Mm.
5'7", and around my hip replacement time, I was 280, 285 pounds. And they were talking to me then. They're like, "Hey, you really need to get some of this weight off of you. You really, before this hip replacement surgery." So I remember I really got serious and I did all this vegan stuff. I started eating salads. I eliminated all red meat, went low fat, no fat, and I got down to like 270, and I really thought I was doing something, 10 pounds. Had my hip replaced. And then things really went downhill for me. I got up to about 310 pounds the first week of December in 2021. And I don't know if everyone remembers, but the Christmas of 2021 is when a lot of us experienced a big wave of getting sick with COVID. And I had not had COVID up to this point. We've had people around us who would have it, but up to this point, I'd never had COVID. I was 310 pounds. I could barely walk around without being out of breath, and I got sick the week of Christmas, and I began to feel really bad fast. And we had Christmas, and Christmas morning, I was not doing very, very well at all. And after Christmas, I began to go downhill pretty quick. Long story short, I wound up in the ICU the Tuesday between Christmas and New Year's. And I nearly lost my life. And I remember Deborah getting me to the emergency room. It was about 2:30 a.m. or 3 a.m. And we got separated immediately because I knew I had COVID. I had tested COVID positive, got separated, and they put me in a different place. And long story short, I was in ICU for a week fighting for my life. And laying there in the bed, hearing constantly over and over from the doctors and nurses about, sometimes they would talk to each other as if I wasn't even in the room. I'm laying there, right, fighting for my life.
Mm.
I'm on all this oxygen and all this stuff. And, all they could talk about was how I checked all the high risk factors. I was classified as clinically and morbidly obese. And I kept hearing that over and over again. And I mean, and one nurse, me and her just didn't get along. We really butted heads. And I remember her feeling so put out that she was even having to come in my room. And I can't blame her, right? I mean, we were all still trying to understand this sickness. But me and her not getting along and butting heads because she was trying to get me to lay on my stomach because of how bad my lungs were. And my lungs were just eat up with COVID lungs, and they didn't want me laying on my back, and I couldn't lay on my stomach, and I had all this tubes and oxygen and everything on me, and me and her just could not figure it out. And I finally asked her, I said, can I just sit in that recliner next to the bed? She goes, I can get you in that recliner, but that's going to be your bed. And that's going to be where you stay because we can't be going from the bed to the recliner. I said, that's fine, but I can't lay on my stomach. And if I need to sit up, can you help me get in that recliner? And she did. And I spent a week in that recliner recovering. And I came home, Christy, and I came home just after New Year's 2022. And I had a really big struggle ahead of me. So I did all the plant-based stuff. I did everything that they told me to do. They told me no red meat, no fat. If I eat fat, it needs to be very low fat. I need to eat fruits, vegetables, leafy greens. You got to do all this stuff, and you got to get yourself under control. Well, I did that, and I actually began putting weight back on. And I was getting to the point to where I didn't know what to do. And late 2022, I stumbled onto the keto diet. And, I'm like, okay, I'm desperate. I'll try anything. Christy, I actually think I had begun to develop somewhat of an eating disorder because I had gotten into tracking every macro. I bought a food scale. I was weighing everything. I had an app on my phone. I was calculating my calories, and I really began to get this disorder with food. Deborah and I could not even go out and eat because I was so consumed with what am I eating? What's in this food? How many carbs do I have? How much protein do I get? And I found keto.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, this is different than what I'm doing, but oh my gosh, it's low carbs, and there's high protein, and there's fat, and there's meat, and all this stuff that people say we shouldn't do. Well, I'm gaining weight on all this other stuff, and I feel horrible. I can't think, I can't concentrate, and my mental state was not healthy when it came to my relationship with food. I got on keto towards the end of 2022, and I lost almost 40 pounds in 2 months. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And things really began to turn around. And then from keto, I began to research, and I found the same people that everyone else finds. I found Dr. Kim Berry. I found Dr. Anthony Chafee. I found all these other people. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this carnivore, what is this? And I went full carnivore in March of this year. I dabbled with it, and then I just went full carnivore in March of 2023. And by June, I had lost 110 pounds total, and I was down from 310 to 200 pounds. In March, when I went full carnivore, I joined Planet Fitness, and I started going to Planet Fitness 3 or 4 days a week, and my energy was insane. I had all this energy. So I was like, I'm going to start lifting weights again. And my wife's like, Kevin, you haven't lifted weights in 30 some odd years, let's take it easy. But I began to just have this weight come off of me, fat come off of me. And then I started responding in the weight room 3 or 4 days a week. And I began to walk. And when I didn't lift weights, I'd probably walk, 5 to 7,000 steps a day. And in the beginning, Christy, walking to the mailbox and back an 8th mile was hard. But by June, I had gotten down to 200 pounds, and it completely changed my outlook on health and metabolic health. And that's kind of my whole 1.5 year journey, from vegetarian to plants to all this stuff, to cutting out processed foods, eliminating sugars, going keto, eliminating seed oils. And I'm gonna tell you, when we cut, and Deborah and I did this together, so thank God that Deborah went through this with me. Had I been in this journey alone, it would have been more difficult for me. But Deborah committed to do it, and when as a household we did it. And we cut out seed oils, and the only oils we would eat, even sparingly still, was olive oil, avocado oil, but mainly it was butter and ghee and tallow were what we used for oils, or if we needed something to put in a pan or whatever. And then it was a lot of ground beef, steak, and chicken with skin on. I still haven't done the heart attack chicken, but I'm gonna do.
Oh, go for it! It's so good. I've done it twice now. Oh, it's so good.
Right. But and now I just look back on that journey, and everything and the healing humanity and everything that Carrie's talking about with mental clarity and mental health. And I look back over my journey and I see where I was at mentally, and how dark I had gotten with my relationship with food, and even my performance with my job, my work, my energy, everything just began to come into play. And I want to go get some blood work done. I told Deborah I need to get through January. This is a very busy December and January were very busy for our business. And I want to take some time off, and I want to go get some renewed blood work done. I haven't had blood work done in probably about 14 months. So I'm really curious to see how that's looking. Let me be quiet. I can talk forever, Christy, if you let me. But
I talked all day to 10-year-olds. I'm good to listen for a little bit. No, it's so intriguing. Of course, it sparked quite a few questions as you were talking. And so one of the questions I have had to do with your tracking. And then, how many calories were you eating a day when you were tracking all that? And I hear you, because I wouldn't eat at a restaurant either when I was totally food obsessed.
Right.
Unless they had all that stuff listed. And then I was like, I hope this is accurate. I'd have like angst over whether even what they were saying was in their food was really in their food, because I wasn't in control of it. So I hear you.
Right. Yeah. So when I was tracking calories, I would go through all of the metabolic calories in, calories out, calorie deficit. And I was staying around 1,800 to 2,000 calories a day. And, there were times where I would actually push that a little harder and go 1,700 calories a day. And I had very little energy. I was always hungry. I mean, I could not get satiated. And I felt like I lived hungry all the time. So then I'd go up on my calories, and I'd go to like 2,200 calories. And I was just trying to find where was that calorie deficit for me. And I could never get in a rhythm with that. I could never do it. I mean, I just felt like I was beating my head on a brick wall with trying to figure out how to get in a calorie deficit. And, everyone says, well, if you're not losing weight and you're in a calorie deficit, then you're not moving enough. So you need to move more and just eat less. And I'm like, well, I'm starving now. So I guess I'm gonna have to just keep restricting calories. And I was trying to walk. I was trying to lift weights and stuff in my garage before I joined the gym. I had put together some weights in my garage, and I would walk the neighborhood early in the morning or late at night. So I I was like, how much more do I need to move? And I did a video a couple weeks ago that sparked a lot of controversy on some of my social media about how a calorie is not just a calorie. And I've had to learn the hard way. There's a big following out there of people who are like, hey, it's calories in versus calories out. And it's just living in a calorie deficit. Well, for me, I think I could have got down to probably 14 or 1500 calories a day at my weight. And I don't think I could have functioned mentally. And that's when I had to understand what my insulin levels were doing, what my sugar levels were doing. See, I grew up as far back as I can remember, 6, 7 years old, eating a bowl of cereal every morning. I mean, a box of cereal every morning, not a bowl. I had a Cool Whip. I had a Cool Whip bowl on the table with milk, Lucky Charms, and sugar. And I would pour the Lucky Charms in. I would sprinkle all the sugar on top, pour the milk in, and I would sit there and eat until the box was gone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I ate a lot of processed food and sugars. And I think all through these years, I think I had gotten to the point, and I'd always teetered on being a type 2 diabetic when I had fasting blood work done. I was always on that edge. And right before I got COVID, I didn't share this with anybody. I think I shared it in the video with Carrie. My hands and my fingers were numb. And my feet would tingle and my hands would tingle. And looking back on all this, I really believe at that point, I was probably a type 2 diabetic. Yeah. But I didn't have a glucose meter. I didn't check any of that stuff. And then a couple months after I began to experience all that is when I got COVID and got sick. And then all that's gone now. So, I did buy a glucose meter that would test glucose and ketones. And I did that for a while, but now I kind of know where my body is, and all the tingling's gone in my hands and my feet. And I came off all my medicine. So I was on blood pressure medicine. I was supposed to be on cholesterol medicine, but I never got the prescription filled.
Okay.
And I was on the highest dose of blood pressure medicine, and my blood pressure was still high. And they kept telling me, we don't know what else to do with your blood pressure. You need to get this weight off. You need to get this weight off. Well, I haven't been on blood pressure medicine since I lost the first 45 pounds through keto.
Okay.
And so no blood pressure meds, nothing. And here I am. So I am maintaining. I fluctuate between 198 to 204, depending on the week and what's going on. And in June, I had a rough month in June of this past year. We went on a big vacation, Deborah and I did, because I was starting with a new company in the middle of June, and I'm a technology guy. And so we went and did some traveling, and I let it all go. And in June, I put back on about 25 pounds. I reintroduced processed foods. I began to dabble with sweets again. And, we were out at resorts and, evening cocktails and everything. I just let it all go. And I thought, well, I've earned this. I've fought so hard. I'm just going to go enjoy this vacation. Well, that's not the way to do it. And
I was going to say, it doesn't sound very enjoyable. Like putting on 25 pounds, I'd have to go buy more clothes in the middle of my vacation if I did that.
No, it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
And it was gradual enough, so from the 1st of June towards the end of June, it was about a 25-pound weight gain. And all of my soreness and my inflammation and my hip and my knees and everything started, I could feel it. And a lot of the digestive issues I struggled with, I would struggle with irritable bowel syndromes and different things like that. All that started coming back. And it started coming back very quickly. So now, even like now, if we go somewhere and I have to compromise at dinner, or I didn't plan well, or we're out and I've got to have something to eat, even if I get a steak, a lot of restaurants will cook steak with seed oil. They'll season it with seed oil. I can even tell now, even if I ask and they say, oh yeah, we won't do that, we'll use butter or whatever, I can tell you within about 30 minutes if there was seed oil on that steak. I mean, that's just how quick I began to feel the inflammation and different things happening in my body. because I am a pretty avid weightlifter still, and I do love lifting weights, but I don't ever get sore unless I have those type of foods. If I have seed oils, or if I have a lot amount of sugar that or some artificial sugar, I can feel it the next day, or even within a couple hours. I can feel my knees and my shoulders, because I'm 54 years old. So I got to keep reminding myself I'm not 30, even though I feel like I'm 30. And even though the strength of me in the gym feels like I'm 30, but as long as I'm eating meat and fat and the right amounts of fat, I don't have that problem.
Yeah. So Nicole made this comment back when you were talking about eating the Cool-It bowl full of cereal. Yeah, no one ever told me, I'm 48, so I'm, right behind you by a few years. No one ever told me that sugar was bad. Sugar was never bad. Go ahead, put all the sugar you want on your cereal. Just don't eat fat. So I'd have my mom would not buy Frosted Flakes, but corn flakes. But then I just put all the sugar on. It's fine. And non-fat milk. It's fine.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
fine.
Yeah. I ate my share of Pop-Tarts too, former fat girl.
And Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
And I would just be worried about when I got into those high school years, I would try to just eat the one instead of the two that were because of the calories, and then that never worked.
Right.
I always ended up eating the whole box.
No, I know.
Yeah. So yeah, I hear you. Yes, Nicole, Pop-Tarts. I remember those well. That was not a good situation. Susan, this is awesome. Apparently, my old-fashioned doctor in the UK knew more than his peers. He told me to lose fat, you had to eat fat and eat low fiber because I had ulcerative colitis. So that's awesome. That's awesome. So the other thing that I was curious about is when you started keto, did your tracking habits go away at that point, or were you still tracking? Were you what kind of keto were you? Were you heavy meat keto? Were you internet keto? Were you dirty keto, clean keto?
I would consider myself in the beginning, I would say I was clean keto.
Okay.
So, the only whole vegetables I would eat as keto, I would eat asparagus, Brussels sprouts, and some broccoli, maybe here and there. And then it was a lot of meat. But I was still struggling with fat. So, I was raised as fat was bad. And so in the beginning, I was still trying to do all this lean meat, low fat, no fat stuff.
Okay.
And, I still lost weight very quickly with keto, but I believe most of that was because I eliminated sugar. I eliminated processed foods. I eliminated seed oils, and and when my energy started coming up, I was more active. So I believe, and I'm not one of these people that's going to shove carnivore in people's faces. And I think tonight I'd like to bring up some topics around some of this as well. And Christy, I want your opinion on some of these other topics around
absolutely
animals.
I'm full of opinions. I'm an expert on my own opinion, Kevin. Yeah. It's all good.
Right. But in the beginning, I would consider myself a clean keto.
Okay.
And I was pretty strict about the clean part. I would not eat any seed oils. If it wasn't olive oil or avocado oil or butter or ghee or what else, I would not touch it.
Okay.
And but my mistake was I was still doing this really low fat thing because I was raised in the 70s and 80s, and it was just it was not good. Fat will make you fat. Yep. As we know now, it does not. And as I began to I stopped tracking. I became slack at tracking because my relationship with food changed.
Okay.
So I was less worried about macronutrients because the eliminating all this other stuff really simplified it for me. So I would still kind of track a little bit, but then I was like, why am I going through all this work to track all this stuff and document all this stuff? And then I'd kind of go a couple days, so maybe 2 or 3 days a week I track, and then 1 day a week, and then I just quit tracking calories altogether. Okay. And about that time is when I went full carnivore. I haven't tracked calories or counted calories since February of 2023.
Okay. So that's got to feel super freeing, right?
Yes. Yes.
let that all go and just eat. So you just go by that. I eat when I'm hungry. I eat till I'm full. And then is that
Yes.
kind of, you just do that? Okay.
Yeah. When I eat, and I average 2 meals a day right now.
Okay.
One pretty big meal, and maybe one smaller meal before bed. But when I eat, like when I eat my meal, I eat,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean I eat a lot of beef. I probably average 2 to 2.5 pounds of beef a day. At times, I never probably eat less than 1.5 pounds. If for some reason I don't have beef that day, then I'm going to eat a bunch of eggs. I eat a lot of eggs
I love
or a
eggs.
lot
Okay.
of beef. And I don't do as much bacon anymore. I used to do a lot of bacon and cook my eggs in bacon grease. I still eat some bacon, but the bacon I eat is sugar-free bacon. There's no sugar. It's not cured in sugar or anything. And it's for me, and I know bacon doesn't have a lot of sugar on it. I get it. But for me, I think it's important. I had to admit and accept that I am a sugar addict. I mean, there people struggle with different addictions. I mean, we can sit here and list addictions off all night long. And whether people want to admit it or not, I am a sugar addict. So for me to even have a little sugar, Christy, that leads to urges and it triggers me. Like to this day, I love, I need to be careful. I don't abuse it, but I do enjoy bourbon. And I liked bourbon before I got really sick. Now, alcohol, I have learned, is not good for us, right? And a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna have a glass of wine or something this Saturday or Sunday and reward myself." Well, when you begin to understand what that does to your body and how your body goes into completely different modes to process that alcohol to get it out, then that takes a toll on your liver and everything else. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it is just, I eat a lot of eggs or a lot of beef, a little bit of bacon. I eat a lot of butter and a lot of ghee, and I use a lot of real salt on my food. I used to do a lot of electrolytes in the beginning. I don't do that anymore. Um, I don't do any supplementation anymore. I mean, I don't spend money on any of that stuff because I'm getting enough salt in my food. I salt my steaks heavier than most people probably think they should, and I'll
Yeah.
put my steaks and my ground beef. I'll salt it and put it in the refrigerator, and I try to let my steaks sit a couple of days salted, sitting on a cooling rack in the refrigerator. And
Yeah.
people ask me, well, how should I salt them? I said, well, you salt them, and then when you think you have put enough on there, then you salt them some more, and then you let them sit. So, but a lot of my stuff, to me, eating now is less about an event. It is more about fuel for my body. I mean, we still have
Mhm.
dinners with friends and stuff like that. And in our society, sitting down, having a meal, breaking bread it's an important part of our society. But I no longer worship that like I
Mm.
used to. It's just now I have a better relationship, and I understand that food is mainly keep me alive and sustain me. So
Yeah,
I can talk all
absolutely.
night.
You talk all night. I'm over here starring comments. I gotta put some of these up here because
Sure,
these
let's
people
do
are
it.
great. Of course, I have to filter through all the jokes and like silliness that's going on in the chat. Try to stay serious about this whole topic. They're
All
having
right.
a good time. I love that. Yeah. So former fat girls here. Hi, Nicole. Whoa, I'm on time. Go me. So that's awesome. Cindy's popping in. She said she had to go fix dinner, but she will catch the replay. But then I saw her later, so she might still be here listening. Just Jason Keto here saying hi. So hi, Jason.
Hey there.
Primal Timeline. Kevin's story is relatable and his honesty is refreshing. See, now you know what when I saw him on Homestead How, I'm like, yeah, I gotta contact this guy and talk to him. Cindy has pork steaks in the air fryer. They're probably done by now. Cindy, I just got an air fryer. I'm using it for the second time. Here's what I did. Okay, Rick, you're gonna tell me right now if you approve. Okay. So I don't do chicken all the time. I'm more like Kevin than not. I do eat a lot of beef, you guys, but maybe every couple of weeks I'll have chicken. So I took some chicken thighs with the skin on and I brush them with bacon grease, and then I air fried them. Like one of my viewers told me to try that, so I tried it. I haven't eaten them yet. They're like waiting for me in there. So let me know, Rick, if that's an acceptable version. He's gonna tell me it's not enough fat. I already know. Laura Blue Sky, this is very encouraging. I'm glad, Laura. Yeah, thanks for joining us. And semi-retired Bob is here. Good evening, Bob. I put up this question because I've actually seen this. What's a carnivore version of Lucky Charms? Black Star, have you ever seen Courtney Luna eat pork rinds out of a bowl like cereal with some like whole milk or some heavy whipping cream? Because that's it right there. The carnivore version of Lucky Charms. That's a thing. I have not tried it, but there are people that eat pork rinds like cereal. Have you seen that, Kevin? Have you seen some of these people doing that?
Not.
Oh yeah. I haven't tried it yet. Don't knock it till you try it, I guess. Primal Timeline says Kevin's diet sounds great. Super clean carnivore. I mean, beef and eggs, you guys. It doesn't get much better.
Yep.
And then Nicole's saying Kevin's diet sounds like mine. Yeah, beef all day, every day. Yeah, not breaking bread anymore. Breaking beef. That's right. 100%. 100%. So you said, oh, actually, well, there's a question. So I'm gonna go ahead. I didn't read it yet, but did they give you remdesivir and intravenous steroids when you were in the hospital, Kevin? Because when they gave it to me by the second dose, it pushed me into double pneumonia.
So that's a great question. I did not get intravenous steroids. I did get the remdesivir. They gave me something in an IV, and I'm gonna be straight up with you guys. They came to me. I had to sign a release form, and they said, "We don't know if this will save your life or not." And I said, "Well, what are my chances?" And they said, "Well, right now we're 60-40 that we think this can save your lungs, your COVID lungs." They told me that on a scale of 1 to 10, my lungs were a 9 as far as severity with COVID. I believe that's what they gave me for the COVID lungs, but they said that's pretty much all they could give me, and Tylenol, and that's what I had.
Okay. So Kevin, this is Nicole. This is Kevin's first time in the chat. I wonder what he thinks of the bathtub chat. Welcome to my channel, Kevin. This is how they act.
No problem.
Usually I send them straight to detention, but today I'll let them stay. For those of you that don't know, I am a teacher. So yeah, I have to do those teacher jokes sometimes. So you said you had a couple of topics that you wanted to bring up with me. I'm all ears.
Yep. So, one of the things, and I've had it while you were talking, I was skimming through the comments. One of the things I get hit with a lot, and I have really taken this personal and done some research on it, is eating animals. And my daughter is in her mid-20s, and she and I have had this conversation a good bit. And one of the things that I have really began to understand is some of the horrors of the industrial animal farming that is being practiced, and specifically the CAFO operations. I don't know how many people are familiar with CAFO, but concentrated animal farming operations. And one of the things that's led me to do is I began to understand more about our local farmers around me who support regenerative farming and what they call farm to table. And, whenever I research this, and I would love to know, what some people's thoughts are on this, I eat a lot of meat. And, that does mean that an animal dies. But I've also began to go out and look at some of the, not that I'm on one side versus the other, but, if you look at carnivores, you got carnivores over here and you got vegans over here, or people who don't eat meat or whatever. And I've been trying to research and try to understand some of their stuff around animals. And when I've researched the CAFO operations and the industrial agriculture and what goes on in those type of environments, the hormones and everything that they pump these animals with. I don't know if you've ever heard of Bill Harris, Christy, but he's a regenerative farmer in Georgia, and he's been on Kim Berry's channel and Anthony Chafee's channel and some other channels. You know, I now feel the conviction as a carnivore because I'm going to continue to eat meat, but I don't want to give my money to the big box stores who are going to buy their meat. And not all of it's US based. Some of this meat is imported into the US. I would rather try to seek out and understand how can I support regenerative farms or things in my area. And to my surprise, I have one about 20 miles up the road from me.
Oh, that's
that
cool.
I'm gonna go meet with him on Saturday, and I'm hoping we're gonna be able to get some video content. And this is a farm up the road from me. He's a local farmer. He practices regenerative farming, grass-fed, grass-finished beef, chickens that are actually free roaming in the pastures, and his cattle get moved every day. They get herded and moved to different parts of their pasture so that the grounds that the cattle were on the previous day have time for the manure and everything else to do its part, and that cows are constantly being rotated around the pastures. Their chickens are out. They also have pigs. But for me, I want to be more responsible with where I'm buying my beef and my meat from.
Yeah.
And that's something that it's been an eye-opening event for me, because my daughter Rebecca said, Dad, she goes, I get it. And the results speak for themselves. But what can you do as a carnivore to get more awareness to people to support their local farms and people who are willing to do this work and not do this big industrial operation? So Christy, I don't know your thoughts on that, or if this is something you need to go research.
Yeah. So I haven't done like research. I just know I know the things that you said, right? I just know from like hearing it. I haven't looked into it myself. There is I have on order from my local rancher, a grass-fed, grass-finished cow. I only have space to store a half a cow, and I'm splitting actually that half a cow with my mom and brother. That will not be available till April or May. I need to email that the rancher again and get that date nailed down, but we have put a deposit down. It is going to be, I think, overall even a little bit cheaper, although not. I think in California it's different. Like we pay premium for things here. I forget the exact amount, but after everything, it's still going to be under $7 a pound. Now, full disclosure, a lot of that's going to be ground beef, right? But some of that's going to be ribeye. Some of that's going to be picanha, my personal favorite. And all the things. Plus, I did ask for all of the, I want the oxtail, I want the fat trimmings, I want all the things. So that will be my first, and I would have gotten it sooner if I could, right? Like that was literally the first available. I have already switched over. So if I'm doing like chicken and pork, now this isn't like from local, because we did get a turkey from that same place, and I forget, my mom paid, I didn't pay. It was a lot. It was like $10 or $12 a pound for this turkey, like for Thanksgiving. And I was like, holy moly. Now, it was the best turkey I've ever had. Like it barely even tasted like turkey, but like in a good way. I was like, this is what turkey is supposed to taste like. But that's not something I can afford all the time. I'm not sure if we do chicken. I'll have to find out. But anyways, I do order all like pasture raised chicken and pasture raised pork now, just because of like, the quality I feel, of like what they're eating, that they're living like appropriate lives, that they're not, factory farmed in any kind of way. So I have switched to that. Currently my beef, because I'm waiting for this cow. And then from then I can continue to order, meat from them. The farm is a little further away than yours. It's more local to like my mom. She lives about an hour south of me. But the butcher that they use is like 10 minutes up the road from me. So it's actually very convenient for me because I'm going to be able to go there to pick it up. So I'm looking forward to it. I feel good about it. The only downside being that just availability, which I mean, in a way is awesome, because what that means is that local rancher is so busy they don't have a cow for me until,
Right.
May. And I ordered it 2 months ago. I think I put the deposit down. Like, I've been talking about this, feels like forever now. It's been a couple of months.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep. Oh, good.
yeah,
Very good.
yeah, yeah. So there's some people talking about this in the chat. And if anyone else, I might have missed a couple because I was just talking, but I had started a few. So, let's see. Well, there was a question. Let's get to that first. So Renee is asking, she said she missed the first few minutes. Where are you located, Kevin? I'm not sure if you said, Kevin, where are you
Yeah.
located?
I'm in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. So
Okay.
right outside of Charleston, South Carolina.
Okay. There you go. And Nicole is agreeing. So I agree. There have been times when the only beef or chicken was Purdue and I skipped meat that day. I refuse to give a crap company like Purdue my money. And Susan E is saying Tyson literally sends their chicken from America to China to be processed and then it's shipped back. WTH.
Right.
So there's like what some of the people in the chat were chiming in. So have you ordered any meat from this local ranch that's about 20 minutes from you? Have you ordered it
So
yet? Or
you can order online. So I put an order
okay.
in online, and he has dates where he can deliver the order because it's around their schedule, right? Whenever they have meat available. So it's first come, first serve. But then they also recently have opened up a farm store. So they stock the store with pasture raised eggs, and they have freezers of meat and different things. So this Saturday, I'm hoping
Mhm.
that I can actually get some meat and eggs. And they have raw milk, raw cheese there. They have vegetables and plants and honey and everything else that they grow there locally as well. But mainly I'm after the grass-fed, grass-finished beef and the pasture-raised chickens. He actually has a few videos on his site and different things about pasture-raised chickens versus free-range cage and what all that means.
Mhm.
But yeah, I've done an order. I think my first order comes in towards the end of this month, and I'm intentionally running low on beef. So I bought all my meat, everything locally up until now, and
Okay.
it is more expensive to go buy
Mhm.
this meat from these local farmers. So I've got to understand that from a budget perspective. But Deborah and I don't spend a lot of grocery money on all this other junk anymore.
Right.
So, people are like, well, how do you afford to eat steak every day? Well, for one, I don't. I do eat a lot of ground beef, but
Mhm.
I try to find 80-20 or even 70-30 ground beef. And I do have a local butcher who makes me fattier ground beef, but
Ooh, that's cool.
it's still expensive when they do that, but it's not grass fed, grass finished.
Mhm.
And I really want to be more serious about the meat I purchase. At the end of the day, I've had great success, and I've not had any ill effects from eating beef from Publix, Costco, Sam's, Walmart, and I haven't gotten sick from it or anything. It hasn't caused me a problem to my knowledge. But I do believe having eating beef that hasn't been pumped full of hormones. And I'm going to tell you what, Christy, I'll send you some YouTube links after this call, and I'll even go back and put them in the comments so people. I know a lot of
Cool.
times YouTube will not let you put a link in; it'll restrict it, and you have to approve it later. But I would encourage you guys to go look at Dr. Kim Berry. He did a video recently with Bill Harris of White Oak Pastures in Georgia, and it's a conversation on a farmer who was once an industrial farmer who did
Mhm.
everything that the government told him to do, all the antibiotics, all the hormones, and planting hormones into cows and having them in places where they couldn't even walk. If you could go watch that, and like I said, I'll send you the link, Christy. It's just an eye-opening thing, and for me, the conviction is now I'm carnivore, and there's no turning back from that. But there's a responsibility I feel that now that I have learned more and I'm more understanding of what's going on, and I hear people talk about the environmental impacts of cattle farming, they're focused on these industrial, huge CAFOs where they're concentrated animal feeding operations, whether it's cows, pigs, chickens, or whatever. And when you see what they're doing, it's quite disgusting,
Mm.
and it's pretty repulsive on some of what they're doing to some of these cattle. And Bill Harris at White Oak Pastures even talks about how a normal lifespan of a cow, on a proper diet can live 24 years. But, his farm, before he switched and left this practice, they were slaughtering cows before 2 years of age because they were already 1,200, 1,300, 1,400 pounds. These cows were like morbidly, critically obese to the point where some of them couldn't even walk. And that's because of all the hormones and stuff that they're feeding these animals to put all this fat and growth on them. So that's kind of been, over the last couple of weeks, that's really kind of been a conviction on me. And I'm thankful that I have children who are probably more in touch with some of that and have drew me into that. So it's not like I'm leaving and going vegan tomorrow, but it does mean that I want to be more responsible on how I spend my money, because it is expensive. When you buy grass-fed, grass-finished beef and pasture-raised eggs, it is more expensive. But because I'm not buying cereals and chips and all this other junk, I can spend more money on quality food and still not break my budget on the groceries.
Yeah, I my intention on my channel is to do some more interviews like the one that I did with the pasture-raised egg farmer. I mean,
Right.
what they are doing at their pasture-raised eggs. Now, those eggs are like $9 a dozen. And I bought several dozen when I was there. But yeah, that what they're doing, it's like it's like a win-win-win. It's like
Right.
the chickens are great, the eggs are great quality. They're moving those chickens around. They're, fertilizing the fields with it. They've got sheep in there to keep, I mean, it's a whole thing. And it's like, it's really great. And even in terms of keeping predators out, like they use dogs, they're not using, like pesticides and all this kind of
Right.
stuff. I mean, it was really eye-opening interview that I did, and I want to do more. I did talk with the farmer that I bought the beef from, and I was going to interview her in January. And I just realized it's January and I haven't, she was like really busy and she's like, come back to me in January. I'm looking at my, it's January 17th. I need to like get back to this lady. So hopefully I can go there. Like you said, like you're going to do, right. And get some footage, and talk to them. I don't know if anybody knows this. So this is Dustin. He says, how many cubic feet is a full cow or half cow? I will say, Dustin, the farmer gave me like a cheat sheet that had all that information, but like I didn't memorize it. I just knew that if I split that half cow with my mom and brother, I would have space. And I think I'll have more than enough space because I have a like a chest freezer in my garage plus my freezer. I'm just going to make sure that it's all pretty much empty, before I get this beef. But like the local rancher that I bought from had like a PDF, and I wish I had that number, but I didn't memorize it. Dustin, do you know off the top of your head, Kevin, how many cubic feet it takes to store that meat?
I'll know more after Saturday.
Okay. So Dustin, if I can find that PDF, what I will do is I'll download it and hopefully then I can put it like as a link, like in the show notes after this is over, because yeah, she gave me a PDF with all that information. Like if you buy this or that, how much freezer space you're going to need. So if I can get that, I will do it. Brad's question is, anything wrong with local grass-fed, or grain-finished meats?
Hey, good question, Brad. I think I know who this Brad guy is. I mean, for me, Brad, I'm not going to turn away grass-fed, grain-finished necessarily. And at the end of the day, I would rather support the local farmer and the local pastors who are doing that. And I would give my money to that farmer versus going to give all my money to Walmart and Costco, and Lord knows where that beef is coming from.
Right. I don't think, especially if it's local and all of that, and the cows are humanely treated. I know the nutritional difference in beef is a lot less because they're a ruminant animal between like grain finished and grass finished. If I had ordered a grain finished cow, I could have gotten it a month or two sooner. But like I said, I'm sharing with my mom and my brother was very adamant. Like he wanted grass fed, grass finished. So that's what we're going to do. I wouldn't have turned it down if it was just me. And probably for that first one, just to get that beef from the local farmer sooner, I probably would have taken that grain finished one. But we had to accommodate everyone. So that's what we did. So John is here, Champion Within. Hi, John. Nice to see you. Nicole says, I buy lots of food from Amish farms when I visit my folks in New Jersey. Amazing quality. Yeah, I wish we had some of those around here. I don't think we do in California, Southern California. And then Susan E saying, I did buy my meat from Aldi tonight, but it's grass fed from the USA. Sometimes Sam's I try to buy from my friend's farm a few miles down the road. That's awesome. It's organic, pasture fed, or the Amish farm shop. That's really cool.
Yeah, very
Kevin,
good.
I was a little bit jealous when you said your local place has a store, because I've seen other carnivores, post like, JT and like Rhonda and Robin. They're posting these things where they've got like a store like this one. This ranch doesn't
Right.
have a store. So it's kind of like you got to order it, and then they have like certain pickup days. And then you can just show up on a pickup day and see what they have left, and you can buy that.
Right.
If they have something left, or you can order ahead of time and pick up, like, I think every other week, they have a pickup day. So that's kind of how they do it. They don't just have a store where you can walk in.
Right.
I wish
Now
they did.
their stores only open on Fridays and Saturdays. So,
Okay.
They don't keep it open all the time, but it is kind of nice. It seems like, now I'll know more this weekend, but it seems like, in between, like, let's say you order a half a cow, and they'll sell you a half a cow, and you can walk through all the cuts you want, but there's time for that to happen. Right. So it sounds like I can go to the store and maybe stock up on some ground beef and some ribeyes and some strips or different cuts of steak and eggs, and kind of began to get on some type of a cadence to where, if we begin to order, a couple 100 pounds of beef at a time, for one, you're going to save money doing that, but I got to have somewhere to store it. And I don't have a freezer yet that I can put all that meat in. I got to figure that out too. So yes, I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm thinking, because once I get this first half cow, then I feel like I'm kind of in the rotation. Like right now, I'm just kind of in this waiting mode. What I need to do, I'm going to do it tonight. I'm going to email the lady, and I'm going to see, okay, now, because I feel like now I got to get my order in for like my next one, because it's just taking so long. But once I get in that cycle, I'll be able to just do that. I think in the future, I may order specific cuts, because I know when you get that half cow, it is just a lot of ground beef.
Right.
And, sometimes I just want a ribeye or a picanha. So I'm going to try to, maybe mix. I know it's going to be more expensive, but maybe mix some of that in. Although with some of the recipes I've been doing for the ground beef, I just can't do like a ground beef bowl anymore, Kevin. I got really sick of them. And so I started doing like meatloaf and like meatballs and, these other things that makes it a little more, palatable, I'd say.
I've done a lot of ground beef stuff, but I have just went back and we make half-pound burger patties, and I salt them. And what if one thing that Deborah and I've been doing is we will make half-pound burger patties, salt them, and we'll make a bunch. We'll wrap them up individually and freeze them. And it's almost like we're aging them in the freezer, and we'll let those go for about a week, and then we'll start cycling through. And that is just so good. I don't know how to explain it, but I can eat ground beef better when it's in a form of a burger patty and just, cut through it and eat it, and maybe have some eggs or something else, or just some burger patties with some melted butter on it.
Oh, that sounds so good. I'm hungry right now, you guys. So last night I had 3 80-20 burger patties and 2 like over easy eggs. And then I just popped the yolks open and just,
no, that's amazing. That's
good.
amazing.
Yeah, really good. So let's see, where did I leave off? Okay. So yes. So Twin Maples, I'm going to do this. Twin Maples is saying, mix some liver into your ground beef, higher nutritional value. Yes. Twin Maples. They said, that I could, that's the cool thing about ordering from your local farmer or rancher. You can customize that stuff. So you can tell them, actually what you do is I guess when it gets closer, I'll just let the butcher know. But you can tell them like this much of the ground beef, I want 5% or 10% or whatever, liver or whatever other organ ground in. And my plan is to do that, to sneak in some extra vitamins that way. Twin Maples is also saying we get the meats we can afford. Hey, everyone's got to get the meats they can afford, 100%.
Right.
But moving towards growing our own as fast as critters will grow. Yeah, you got to give them time to grow. But that's awesome. I don't know if I'm ever going to have my own critters. I'm here in the suburbs of Southern California. There's definitely people here with chickens, because I hear the roosters crowing. Like when I go out to sprint, I can hear the roosters.
Right.
So there's some people around here that have them. Okay, so John has a question. He says, I've been following Kevin on his racing channel. Yeah, if you don't know, Kevin's channel is like a racing channel, but he also has carnivore content. So if you like, I think it's drag racing, right, Kevin?
Yeah, I do a
Yeah,
bunch of
yeah, yeah.
drag racing. Yeah.
Yeah, I put a link at the very top of the chat to your channel too. Anyways, help me out a lot with my car, but I want to ask, do you have very many, I don't know what that,
Veg. Yeah,
veg?
vegetables.
Oh, vegetables. I thought it was
Yeah.
like a car thing. Okay, so do you do vegetables anymore, Kevin?
No, I don't do fruits, vegetables. I don't do anything but beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. I mean,
Okay.
literally. And butter, by butter, I mean ghee, butter, tallow,
Yep.
beef, any type of animal fat, pork
Okay.
belly. But literally, beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. That's my mantra.
Yeah, that's essentially beef, butter, bacon, eggs is the majority of my diet with the occasional like pork shoulder,
Oh,
the
yeah. Yeah.
occasional the
Yeah.
occasional chicken.
Hmm.
Like tonight I do have some chicken thighs with the bacon fat on them. That's occasional. Most of my days is beef, butter, bacon, eggs. Okay, there's another question here. Have you checked out what Joel Salatin does with raising his beef? Same thought process as White Oak Farm.
I have not, but I will make a note and check out Joel Salatin.
Cool. And then a question for me. Have you found a list of homesteaders that know all the right way of doing this? Find Greg Judy of Green Pastures Farm. So I have not made a comprehensive list. There's a few here kind of near me that I know about. But some of them, like I see even, there's websites you can look stuff up online, and it's so much more expensive than the little one that my mom kind of just knows about. It's like this little local place. They don't even have a website. Like you have to like either text them or email them to
Wow.
order.
Wow.
And so like I said, it's under $7 a pound. The other ones were like, we're talking $15 a pound, more in that range here. So yeah, we're just gonna go with this little local place. I don't even remember the name of the ranch. Because my mom found it. She has friends that have ordered from them, and it's really local to her. It's like the same distance. It's about 20 miles from her house. I've driven by. I mean, the cows are just having a great time out there in the pasture, doing their thing. So it's a really nice place, and I'm excited to go and kind of chat with them and interview them, to kind of get more information about what they do. And Twin Maples is saying, because you said you were going to make a note, he said Joel Salatin, Polyface Farms.
Got it. Yeah, I'd already Googled him. Already Googled that name while
You are
we were
on
talking.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, Rick is not even going to quack. He's going to moo. Thanks, Rick. Usually he quacks. Okay. So Paul is saying, hey, Kevin, I eat mostly wild game, deer, hog, duck, fish, but I crave beef frequently. I do not eat a lot of carbs, but drink orange juice often. And then questioning if this is healthy. So I'll let you speak to that first, Kevin, your opinion on orange juice.
Yeah. So I have, Paul, I have quit all juices. So I'm a sugar addict. And while I don't give into that much anymore, if I were to have some apple juice or orange juice, I can tell you faithfully, I will start craving any candy and anything that I can get my hands on. So for me, the juices, especially the orange and juices, fruit juices of today, are so full of sugar, it triggers me. So I just avoid sugar like it was arsenic.
Mm-hmm.
To me, sugar is a very deadly thing. So I do not drink any fruit juices. I love everything else you mentioned, all the wild game,
Mm-hmm.
all the meat, and crave beef. Listen to your body, is my opinion. But if my body starts telling me, "Hey, Kevin, let's drink some orange juice. Let's have some apple juice. Let's have some candy or a piece of cake," I can tell you right then that would end in a binge for me. And 24 hours later, I would be hating life.
Yeah. So I would add to that there's been quite a few studies on fructose recently, and having to do with like pancreatic cancer. So Paul,
Oh
I would
yeah.
recommend that you look into that. I would also say that, fruit juice is probably the least healthy way to eat fruit. because what's happening when you juice it is you're taking out all the fiber and anything else that could like slow that absorption of that sugar down. So you're basically giving yourself a pretty big spike in your blood sugar by doing that. So yeah, I don't drink any fruit juice either, but to be fair, I've never been much of a juice person even before this. I mean, I was a
Right.
sugar person,
Right.
but I wasn't really a juice person. But so that's that. I would just add to what Kevin said. But yes, all this other stuff, the all this other deer, hog, duck, fish, that's awesome. And go for the beef. I'll add to that too. I feel best on beef. So the reason why I do mostly beef, butter, bacon, eggs is because I feel best on beef. So there was a point where I had made like a pork shoulder and it was big, right? So it was food for a few days. So I ate off. It was delicious. And I ate off of that for like 3 days. And on that third day, my energy was like, meow, 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 right? It was just going down because I just hadn't had beef. And so, yeah, the next day I made some like beef flanken ribs and I ate those. And within like 30 minutes, it was like, okay, level up again. You know,
Yeah.
there's the energy. There it is. Like I literally felt the minute that it kicked in. So I
Yeah.
would say my body is maybe not as sensitive as yours, Kevin, where if I, you know, had some seed oils in 30 minutes, I would know about it. But it does talk to me a
Hmm.
lot more. It gives me signals like the one I just mentioned with the pork versus the beef. I can have a meal of chicken like I'm going to have in a little bit. I can have a meal of pork. It's fine. But if I do that consistently or consecutively without throwing some beef in there, I'll notice a drop in my energy levels.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Great
So I,
questions tonight. Good questions.
yeah, so good. Okay, here we go. Here's some. So, Dr.
Oh yeah.
Lustig for what
I,
juice does.
I
So
enjoy
go.
his videos.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, sugar voices, right? Yeah, sugar voices. Kevin, that's why I had to. That's kind of what happened to me with when I went from also from keto to carnivore. I just really enjoyed the meat and I sort of accidentally went carnivore, but like looking back on it, when I was still keto, I still experienced, you know, cravings for things where I would have to exercise self-control, right? Like nuts, for example. You
Well,
know, I go in thinking
yeah.
I'm going to have this many nuts. And then the next thing you know, the whole thing is
No, that's me.
in
I
my
mean,
belly, right?
and one thing with keto with me is there's all these keto snacks, and I would
Mm,
start having some of these keto snacks or keto nuts. And you know what? Maybe there's people who can moderate that, but like Deborah would buy this big bag of this keto snack from Costco, and it had like this
mm-hmm,
sweet chocolate or something on it, but there was no sugar and all in it.
mm-hmm.
I'd eat the whole dang bag, and she'd be like,
Right.
"What? Where's the bag?" I'm like, "It's gone."
Yeah.
I cannot. Whenever I get that sweet drive in me, I can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
And with keto, that was a danger for me. And people, and it wasn't keto, it was me.
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn to stop snacking. And that's
Mm-hmm.
when I began to eat higher amounts of fatty beef. Then I began to go to 1 or 2 meals a day. And I have not been hungry since March. I have not
Yeah.
gone to bed hungry. I don't wake up hungry. And I haven't counted calories since February. And
Yeah.
I've lost 110 pounds.
Yeah, 110 pounds. That's a lot of weight. And that's amazing to do that
Mhm.
not being hungry. Like, how
Yeah.
often have you heard that?
Right.
Not very often, right? On standard American diet or on eat less, move more.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just get I was just hungry all the time. It was miserable and I had no energy. So Paul is saying thank you. I have energy losses frequently and I thought juice was the answer. So Paul, what I would say is when you get fully fat adapted, so maybe if it's too much juice, you may have been prevented from doing that because you're like putting in all that sugar, right? So you're not able to get fat adapted. When you get fully fat adapted, yes, it's going to stink for a little bit. You're going to have some low energy, until you get fat adapted. Once you do that, your body's going to be cranking away, on that using fat for energy as opposed to glucose for energy. And to Twin Maple's point here, then when you get, well, they're talking about cravings, but like sometimes if I feel low energy, it's like a spoonful of butter and it's like I am good to go. Like I get all happy and like ready to do my day. If I don't always eat breakfast. I rarely eat breakfast, but some days it's just like, you know what? I feel like I need a spoonful of butter. And I'll do that before work, and then I'll be driving to work just like feeling fine. So I would just suggest that, yes, it might be some, a phase of adaptation that you're going to have to go through, but once you get to that point, yeah, it's going to be better. John Blazer's asking, what do you drink? So I
Water.
mostly drink water.
Water.
Yeah, mostly water. I still do drink coffee. I'm very sure after what Kevin said, he probably gave up his coffee if he ever did, based on the level of cleanness of what he was talking about.
I still do have coffee.
Oh, you do still have coffee? Okay.
I have coffee. I mainly drink it black. If I ever put anything in it, it's whole whipping cream, and it's the whole whipping cream that doesn't have all of the other junk in it. Deborah buys a special brand.
And all that
none
stuff.
Of that. Yeah.
It's pretty expensive, but yes, I try to get that kind as well. So I still do drink coffee, John, and in the morning, and I do still use an electrolyte, and I use Element, and I do use the chocolate salt in the coffee. Wow. But it's really good. But I mostly stopped with the heavy cream unless I'm going to do my coffee like with a meal. I try not to do like extra things outside of meals. So like in the morning, if I'm not eating anything, then it's just the black coffee with a little Element chocolate salt in there. So this if it's pretty clean, but it is a little bit of stevia and a little bit of cocoa powder in that chocolate salt, and then the electrolytes. But the salt in there, it kind of like mellows out the coffee. It's really good. So that's what I drink, but mostly water throughout the day. Commenting here on nuts. Nuts are too dangerous. Yes, I bought some for my son to stop him eating chips and chocolate. Too dangerous, or if they are within my reach, especially cashews.
Oh gosh, yes.
Buy them for him and he hides them. Yes, yeah. Cashews. I hear you.
Cashews are a weakness of mine. I could eat a whole thing of cashews.
Yes.
Or I used to. I mean, I don't really anymore, so I don't crave them.
Hi, Lainey in Australia. Welcome. She says, I can't moderate nuts or cheese. I can't have them in the house. I might have them as a treat when I'm out, but that's all. So yes, very similar for me with the nuts. I have to just keep them out of my house. And fortunately, so the rest of my family, although my kids are improving, you guys, I'm working on them. They're 15 and 18. They do have minds of their own. I can't just shove meat in their face and say, this is all you will eat. But no, they're getting a lot better with enjoying the meat and eating more meat. And next is, we've worked on dinner, and my next meal that I'm tackling is breakfast. I'm very excited to get started on that. But anyways, to your point, Lainey, not to get off too far on a tangent here. When I was keto, I could not moderate cheese. So if there was cream cheese, that whole brick of cream cheese was going to be gone. Now I have it. My kids use it, and I can have it. It's weird because it's like, yeah, I can do a little bit and be fine. I might eat cheese once a month, maybe, if that. It's like if I'm out, or if it's a charcuterie board somewhere, like at Thanksgiving, I had some cheese. But it did not spark me to do more cheese. Or like I'll do a meatloaf with cheese on it, mainly for my kids. But if I have a slice of that with a little cheese on it, it's fine. So yeah, the nuts, I just don't with those. The cheese, since going carnivore, I'm a lot better with it. So how about you, Kevin? Do you ever have any cheese?
No, for some reason, dairy and me have never really gotten along. Now,
don't get along. Okay.
Since I've lost all this weight and I'm not eating seed oils, I haven't really tried a lot of dairy. So I don't really crave it, but if I were to start eating cheese, I can see me going to town.
Eating a lot of cheese. It is bingeable. It's very bingeable. Okay. I love this question. This makes me happy because the 1981 G Machine, I have tons of broth tips for you. I don't know if Kevin's ever made his own broth.
I have not.
I make my own broth all the time. And I'm kind of laughing because I'm not the girl. I'm not the like do it yourself girl. I am not the DIY. Like it ain't happening. Like I'm going to buy it. Right. But bone broth, here's the thing. It's very expensive to get like high quality broth, and it's super easy to make. And also, like I buy ribeyes and I just buy the bone-in ones. And that used to annoy me because I was like, I'm paying this money and like this bone is going in the trash. Like before I went carnivore, I'd be annoyed by that. Now, if I have a bone from a ribeye or what have you, I just put it in my bone bag in the freezer. And I just add to that bone bag Okay. And when the bone bag is full, I pull out my Instant Pot. And I put the bones in there all the way up to the fill line. And then I put water all the way up to the fill line, 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, the Bragg's with the mother, and about a tablespoon of Redmond real salt. And I just put that on. There's like a broth setting or a soup setting or whatever. I just put it on that for 4 hours. When that thing is done, I just let the pressure release naturally. And then I strain it out into mason jars, not totally full because I'm going to freeze them. So yeah, don't fill them all the way because they'll explode in the freezer. Science. But anyways, yeah, you don't want that. So I fill them about 3/4 the way full. So it's like a pint-sized jar, but I just fill it like 3/4 the way full. And then I freeze them and I pull out like maybe a couple of weeks. So I'll have, like I had bone broth today with my lunch. But it's very easy to make. And that stuff is full of collagen. And the way that you know is that it's just gelatinous. So you can like tip the whole thing over, like it won't move. It just stays. It's just gelatinous until you warm it up. And some people take the fat off of that, like because it's tallow, and they'll use that separately. I don't. I just leave it all in there. So, and I just mix it up and just drink it like that. Yeah, it's really good. Full of collagen, delicious, easy to do. And you know, you're using up all those bones. So I feel like it's more like nose to tail, right? So you're using all those bones to get something good out of them. And the purpose of the apple cider vinegar, in case you're wondering, is that little bit of acid like pulls out the like calcium and minerals and stuff from the bones and gets it into the broth. So
very cool.
There you have it. I do have a video on my channel if you want to go find it. If you didn't remember all of that on how I do that. So okay, so Susan, yeah, so she's asking if I've tried roasting the bones first. Here's the deal, Susan. I would roast the bones first because some people go to the store and like purchase bones on purpose. Like they purchase bones from the butcher or wherever for the purpose of making bone broth. I don't do that. So the bones that I'm using have already been cooked. So I think the second batch of broth I made, I did try roasting the bones. And I basically didn't notice a difference. And I think it's because they were already like cooked in a ribeye or whatever. It's not like raw bones. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, well, that's just an extra step. Like I said, I'm not the DIY girl. So if I don't have to do that extra step, I'm not going to do it. You're never going to catch me making my own tallow, you guys. I'm just going to buy the Chicago packing company, whatever tallow. It's delicious. It doesn't take all day. I just get it on Amazon. But the bone broth is like, I mean, you just stick it in there, strain it out. It's very easy. So yeah. Jay is cracking me up. He said this before. It makes me laugh, but I make my bone broth the same way and then I sneak it into everything I make for my son. I love it. Yeah. All those tips you used to get, like, this is how you sneak in spinach. No, don't sneak in spinach. Sneak in bone broth.
There you go.
I love it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Twin Maples is saying roasting them enough to brown them creates another flavor level. I mean, I might try it again, but like I said, I did roast them once. I think it's been a while. I think I did them like under the broiler and they got all browned up and stuff. And maybe my palate is not that discerning. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I just didn't notice a difference. I bought bacon fat from Kroger. I buy tallow as well, although I make my own clarified butter. I like it better than ghee. Clarified butter. Okay. Susan, I've heard of clarified butter, but I'm not familiar with how to make it. But all right. Well, Kevin, we've been at this for over an hour now. Did you have any other, final thoughts or any other topics to bring up tonight?
I think I'll leave a thought with this. I don't know if you guys have heard about the Oreo versus statin.
Yes.
Have you heard about that? That's pretty amazing.
Guess what I am, Kevin? I'm a lean mass hyperresponder. So I am all over that. You don't even, my LDL is like, nope, it's greater than 350. Right. Like the test doesn't even know what it is.
Right. No, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I've been doing a little more research on that as well and ran across some of the videos by Nicholas Norwitz and his work around that. So that. I mean, because one of the popular streaming services out there just kind of did a big series on pretty much, promoting vegan and plant-based stuff and stop, all the stop eating meat. And one of the measures they use as a measure of success was lower LDL. And there's a lot of talk about how someone like yourself, the leaner you get and the lower your BMI gets and the more carb restrictions you have, how LDL begins to go up, and how the lipid model supports that whole process. And it's just been really interesting to see how this guy took his LDL from over 400 back down to about 100 by eating 12 Oreo cookies every day for 2 weeks. And it just kind of blows the whole LDL thing out of the water. So I would challenge people to go research that a little bit more.
Yeah, 100%. So I just popped this up so I wouldn't forget. No, Renee, if it just came out today. So I was teaching, then I had a staff meeting, then I came home, threw that chicken in the air fryer, jumped on with Kevin. But you know what? I'm about to go eat that chicken, and I will go look for that video because, anything to do with that topic, I really, of course, am interested in, since I am a lean mass hyperresponder. So yes, I will go and look for that for sure. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. And I'm excited to talk with you again, Kevin, when you get your blood work, because you haven't had blood work for 14 months, and I'm curious to see what happens. With your blood work, my HDL and triglycerides and that ratio and all that's all fantastic, like all of us lean mass hyperresponders, but my LDL is,
very good,
way up there.
So. Now, this has been great, Christy. Thank you. And I'm glad we had a chance to connect like this, and I look forward to staying in touch with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. There's a couple more. I feel bad. Like, I don't want to leave these questions out. So boiled veggies that are strained out of the stock, do they mess with being carnivore for using just veggie-based stock? So I don't put any vegetables in my stock. I know if you look up recipes, right, they have, vegetables in there. I do not know if you strain them out. Obviously, if you're making stock out of them, you are cooking them, right? So cooked vegetables are definitely going to be better for you than the raw ones as far as getting out some of that stuff. But how much of that stuff is left in the broth, I just don't know, Twin Maples. I just leave it out. I just do the bones and the salt and the what I said. So absolutely. And Jay, I do teach. That's fantastic. You teach middle school. I teach almost middle school, Jay, because I teach 5th grade. So after Christmas, we start calling them pre-6th graders, and I do team teach. So my 5th graders do switch classrooms. So most of us 5th grade teachers teach everything, but I teamed up with another teacher. So I teach math and science while she teaches the ELA and social studies, and then we flip kids. So they get that little bit of that middle school experience. So we'll have to talk more about that later, Jay. We'll chat about that. Okay. So there we have it. We've answered all the questions. So thanks again, Kevin.
Awesome.
Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in and watching this. And we will see you around. See you. I think I go live again tomorrow. I'm live for the next 4 days in a row. So come back anytime, guys. I'll be around.
Awesome.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.